Let's discuss this further with Vesko Garcevic. He's a former Montenegrin ambassador and is a professor of the practice of international relations at the Pardee School of Global Studies at Boston University. Thank you, Professor and Ambassador, so much for joining us. The foreign ministers from the EU, they're really certainly sending a very supportive message to Kiev by their visit today. But is this also a broader message aimed at Russia that despite what we've seen happen in the US Congress, despite the elections in Slovakia, which have been won by a man who is seen to be pro-Russian, that Ukraine still has major international support, especially from powerful Western nations?
Thank you, first of all, for inviting me to comment on today's meeting. Indeed, today's meeting of ministers outside of the European Union, first ever meeting of that kind outside the European Union, is a historical meeting for several reasons. But the context is definitely important. You mentioned the reasons why many believe that Western nations have become wary of supporting Ukraine, and that signs of strength are visible on the horizon. And you mentioned a couple of them. First of all, the decision by the Congress on Saturday, which can be telling that in the case of any political disputes within the West, Ukraine can pay a price. Secondly, you rightly mentioned the dynamics in Slovakia. All this together, in fact, speaks about something which let's say, Moscow counts on in the future. With the presidential elections in the US coming up next year, and then another winter in Western Europe, Moscow believes that signs of strength and wariness on the West side will grow. On the other hand, this meeting, in my view, had twofold importance or goals. First of all, you mentioned it is to demonstrate unwavering, resolute support, solidarity with Ukraine. And the second is that to reassure the country, Ukraine, in the European Union perspective. We'll see what the time will bring.
Yeah, we certainly will, because as this war drags on, we're close to 22 months of fighting. It is a war that has affected the whole world, especially in terms of food supply chain. Do you see support possibly waning for Ukraine as this war continues?
Everything is possible. You know, as you can see, let's focus on the Western Europe, actually on European Union. As you can see, the rise of far right or like illiberal parties, or let's say pro-Russian parties, you can call it as you like, is visible, and it's a trend. And also, people many in European countries, they used to living a relatively, how to say, nice life, and not to be exposed to economic problems. The inflation and continuation of economic struggles may cause ordinary people, citizens of European Union members, to rethink the way how their countries should be helping and supporting Ukraine. It is what Moscow counts on. Whether this is going to happen or not, maybe it's early to say, but we can see the trend taking ground in some European Union member states.
Ambassador Vesko Garcevic, really appreciate your opinion. Thank you so much for speaking to us here on TRT World.